The previous video covered 10 basic principles and general rules of effective writing. If you can master punctuation and erase text talk and the inappropriate use of capital letters, you will be taken much more seriously by your readers. And if you meticulously proofread your work, read regularly and often, and practice, your writing will improve. The next step is to work on your style. There are no hard and fast rules that apply to all types of writing. As highlighted in the previous video, your first priority should be to write for your reader. Consequently, the words you used will be determined by your audience. The following guidance primarily refers to a professional audience via emails, websites, and other promotional material, but it may also apply to other types of writing. Number 1. Forget some of what you learned at school. Some rules about writing that you may have learnt at school are just plain wrong. Contrary to what your teacher may have told you, you can start a sentence with but or and if you don't believe this, read any newspaper or novel and you'll see that professionals follow neither of these pieces of misguided advice. Number 2. Direct, precise and concise. One of the greatest misconceptions about good writing is that it involves complex sentences, impressive words and clever phrasing. This might be true of some forms of fiction, but it does not apply to promotional writing. You should avoid flowery language and verbosity at all times. Don't use 6 words if you can say the same thing with 1. For example, instead of writing at the present moment in time, how about currently, or just simply now? Don't try to amaze the reader with your vocabulary. Get to the point, say what you really mean, and always look for opportunities to remove words. Number 3. Show, don't tell. One of the guiding principles of storytelling is show, don't tell. In other words, instead of telling the reader that you are an experienced actor, give a few details of the 5 years you appeared in a well-known TV series. This simple technique is used by scriptwriters, novelists and journalists to engage their audiences more closely with the story and the characters. There will be times, however, when you need to be brief and tell, but whenever you get the chance to describe yourself in more descriptive terms, try to show the real you. Number 4. Avoid cliches and empty words. Everyone has their own definition, but generally a cliche is a phrase that is so overused or misused that it's lost its value. The English language is riddled with cliches and sometimes it is very difficult to avoid them, but if you are ever tempted to use phrases like "I'm a glass half full type of person," "life is what you make it," or "live each day to the max," try to think of a more original and descriptive phrase. Likewise, some words are rather empty of meaning. The classic example is nice, but cool, interesting, and exciting have become increasingly vacuous in recent years. The long-term answer to cliches and empty words is to improve your vocabulary by reading more and self-critiquing your writing. Number 5. Drop the management speak. The most fertile territory for cliches is the corporate world. Unfortunately, many examples of management speak have entered the mainstream, and unless you're careful, you too may be seduced into using words like proactive, competencies, or synergy, or empty phrases like thinking out of the box, pushing the envelope, or blue sky thinking. Follow the golden rule. If you read a seemingly impressive word or phrase and don't immediately know what it means, don't use it. Number 6. Steer clear of superlatives. When describing yourself in a profile, a website or a CV, you may be tempted to use a superlative or two in order to stress your abilities. Confidence is to be encouraged, but if you state that you are the best, the greatest, or the most experienced, then your reader might demand some evidence of your bold claims. Such self-assessments are totally subjective, of course, and a much better strategy is to let the reader decide for themselves. Number 7. Leave the humour to the comedians. Even professional writers find it hard to inject humour into their words. It takes years of practice to master the art, so it's advisable to forget about trying to make your reader laugh. A badly phrased witticism or quip will confuse or, at worst, offend the other person, and sarcasm is particularly hazardous. Stand-up comedians can pull it off because they have timing, tone of voice, and facial expressions at their disposal. These elements are essential for making sarcasm work, but none are available to writers. Number 8. The power of threes. There are two very easy and yet very effective writing techniques based on the power of threes. First, aim to write introductory emails in 3 paragraphs. Open by stating who you are and why you're writing. The second paragraph should give more details of your proposal, and the third should suggest the next step. Second, try to keep lists to 3 components. For example, previous clients include the BBC, ITV, and Channel 4. No one has explained why this works, but listen carefully to skillful orators like President Obama, and you will notice that they often follow this principle to make their most powerful statements. Number 9. The danger of synonyms. You should always try to avoid repeating the same words, but this can be difficult when writing promotional material. Microsoft Word and other word processing software might suggest synonyms, but you need to be very careful when considering the alternatives on offer. Some words might be deemed perfect substitutes by your software, but under closer inspection, they're clearly not. For example, Microsoft Word suggested suspicious as a synonym for careful, but it is evidently inappropriate in this context. Again, the key to developing your vocabulary and understanding which words are real synonyms is by reading regularly and often. Number 10. Resist the urge to emulate others. If you're struggling to find the right words, you might be tempted to check out other people's websites to see how they've expressed themselves. You might even borrow some of their phrases, give them an edit, and then include them in your own promotional material. There's nothing wrong with taking inspiration from others, but remember to read critically. Look for cliches, empty words, management speak, and other symptoms of bad writing. Just because someone else has fallen into these traps doesn't mean that you need to automatically follow.